Well, good morning, friends. How's everybody doing this fine Monday morning? Happy Monday, everyone. August 24th to everybody listening. Hopefully, you're having a fantastic start to your morning, as I'm only showing half my face on TikTok because this is a Bush League operation. Hopefully, you're all having a fantastic morning, had a fantastic weekend. I know I absolutely am and did. Lots to get into with you here over the course of the next 2 hours, and hopefully you can stick around for all of it. And if you can't, you can make sure to check the show out on YouTube. I had a pretty interesting weekend from a number of perspectives. Did a lot of work getting the studio ready over the weekend. I was a very busy little bee, not particularly social, but well, that's a lie. I actually found time for all of it. But nevertheless, getting really close here. I sent some pictures. I'll probably post a couple on my socials after the show today. I picked a starless night navy blue for the color of the studio. I had a couple friends come over, help me paint it, and it's looking pretty fancy. We got the sign made up, bought some backlighting, the whole thing. All this stuff is going on behind the scenes here, and I am very excited to see what the finished product looks like here as we get closer. Looking, for all intents and purposes, like we got a Monday start at the Tim Roush studio. I don't know where I put the sign. I'm going to have to find that another time. As you can tell, I'm a bit disheveled as I prepare to move and making a studio and still try and prep 2 shows a day every day for you guys here. So I am doing my best to keep up with everything. But we are live at the Tim Roush studio. Call or text his free text line 920-830-9222. It's 920-830-9222. It's a free text line for you to ask questions. Tremendous individual, tremendous company with a ton of great people working for them. I don't attach my name to anything that I don't already believe in. So if you do find yourself in the need for a good plumber, please check out Roush Plumbing. That is my off the cuff live read there as we get ready to have more recorded ads, which look like they're also going to start on Monday as well. There's a chance this week we're going to have 30-second spots an hour playing for the Minocqua Brewing Company, and then starting next week we're going to have a couple of different companies all advertising on this program, which very exciting to say the least. So that's at least where I see things going from here. I see people commenting that I have the correct color shirts on today. You know what's funny is if either of the people painting with me yesterday, I hopped in the shower and didn't even realize I put the same shirt back on that I was painting in after I got out of the shower because I was kind of tired by the time everything was all said and done. So I've been kind of oblivious for the last 18 hours, but I'm glad you guys are happy with the choice of shirt. I actually made this shirt when I was in high school. So there's that. I do have to say I had a pretty unique experience social media wise as well this weekend. I went viral, like really viral for the first time. I have a post about Robert Kennedy Jr. and our food regulations that's been seen by over 1 million people at this point, which is kind of fucking crazy. I've never had that kind of experience before. My followers have shot through the roof on Facebook, and it's been a fantastic sight to watch happen here. So I do appreciate all the support as we continue trying to build up this independent outside the box variation. TikTok very clearly lagging behind. I'm looking at you right now, TikTok. I don't know why you're not being cool with all the rest of the apps, but that's fine. The people on there, top of the line. The actual app itself kind of sucks. And of course, we're 85 followers away on YouTube from being able to monetize. So if you haven't, please go over to the YouTube page here. It's blowing my mind. I literally have 4,000 new followers on YouTube and or on Facebook, and like 6 of them clicked on the link to my YouTube page to subscribe. And I'm like, it's right there, guys. It's right there. Help a brother out. But nevertheless, awesome weekend all around for me. For America, not so much, and that's going to be the theme of the program today. We got a number of different stories from that perspective here, and of course, we'll take all of your comments as well. And good morning to everybody saying good morning across all of the different apps here. I appreciate you all being here, taking some time out of your day to listen to me ramble on and on for things here. But we're cruising. I threw the link in the YouTube chat there, and I do have Facebook up as well, just to see, with all these new people taking an interest in the profile here, I figured maybe a couple might find themselves on the YouTube chat or on the Facebook chat there as well. So we'll see what happens. But we're going to start in the Trump administration, and eventually I'm going to circle around to some uniparty talk because I just can't help myself. But I do want to start with the tariff conversation, and more specifically, the conversation surrounding our beef. It's interesting. I have a ton of people who message me stories, and I try my best to read as many of them as I can and figure out what works well with what I want to get into today and what doesn't. Ali, I see you asking to text it. Don't worry about it. I'm having issues right now, and it would cause more confusion than I need. So don't even worry about it today, but I appreciate you. I need to figure out how to get my computer to be able to send and receive texts again, because this is incredibly inconvenient that I can't text directly from my computer anymore. It's funny. I didn't have that ability until like a month and a half ago, and now that I don't have it again, it feels like someone took sunlight from me. Like it's kind of surreal how quickly you can get used to something that really wasn't a major part of your life for most of the existence. I appreciate you. I promise I'll figure it out. I'm not gonna put you to work like that every single day, but I appreciate you. She's gonna physically type it out for the people in YouTube on Facebook that might want to tag along there. But so I had a friend send me a video. If you haven't been seeing, there's been this conversation about wild horses. Donald Trump has been selling wild horses to other countries at $25 a pop, and there seems to be some conspiracy theories that I'm not willing to say are completely untrue that are circulating online right now, surrounding those horses being sold in order to be turned into meat, only to be sold back to us, and that we are eating horse meat. Now, there's no evidence that anything like that has happened, and realistically, compared to a lot of you making the Soylent Green references over the course of the last couple of weeks, Donald Trump selling us horse meat actually seems to be a bit of an upgrade from what we've been worried that he was going to ultimately end up selling us. Again, we don't know that that's actually going to happen. There's just a lot of circumstantial evidence surrounding that possibility that has a lot of people online going full-blown tinfoil mode. And I gotta say, I can't tell them. I can't tell you you're wrong. I'm not going to say you're right, but I most certainly am not going to tell you you're wrong either. But the conversation is based in reality that I think is getting ignored. Case in point, there has been conversations surrounding Argentina and beef, and a very viral clip that went around at the end of last week where he was saying, yeah, we got a deal surrounding where a deal with another country where we're going to get our beef. And it's like, well, what country is that? He's like, I don't think I'm going to say. Like, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear something like that, that means we don't want to know the country where the beef is coming from. We don't want to know what they're legally allowed to do to their food. We're not allowed to like that feels like something they would that feels like something that he would do. What are you saying here? I mean, though, to be honest, other than like the social taboo aspect of it, what's entirely wrong with horse? No, you're exactly right, gamer. It's quite literally just the taboo, but more importantly, so my friend says, here, hold on, wait. I'll just pull. I'm gonna leave the person's name out of the conversation, but let me pull it up because they had one attitude towards matters, and I said, actually, I'm looking at it a different way. So this person says, I feel like this beef stuff is bad for farmers, though, is it not? Purposely importing cheaper beef uh, than we can get it for, doesn't that mean we won't need beef farmers anymore? I said, that's bad, and that will definitely have an impact. But I'm not thinking about this from an economic perspective. I'm thinking about it from a supplies perspective. We are already short on our cattle supply, and that's not even adding in the screwworm, which has been eating our cows from the inside, only diminishing our supply from there. I think we're dramatically short on beef if we are to believe this horse meat thing. So you're exactly right, gamer, and I don't mean to imply any type of ill will towards any communities that might eat horse regularly. I've eaten squirrel. I've eaten a number of random animals in my life, and I really don't eat red meat at all anymore. So I've run the gamut. So I absolutely am not judging anybody. A good friend of mine in the Air Force was actually living in I don't think it was where he was living. Where was he visiting? Was it Japan? I don't remember where it was, but there was dog on the market, and he posts it just to elicit the reaction out of everybody, and then he follows up with articles about how pigs exhibit the exact same behaviors that dogs exhibit. Like if you lived with a pet pig, and if you're listening to me in Wisconsin right now, in one of the rural parts, maybe there's a chance I'm telling you shit you already know. I didn't know this until my adult life, but pigs exhibit all the same characteristics that dogs do. Like when you come home, they're excited and they run around and they shake their butts and they jump on you and they're just thrilled that you're there the way that a dog is. But most of you listening probably don't have any issues with eating pork or bacon or ham or any of that. So you're exactly right. There is a stigma to it, but I am not looking at it from a stigma perspective. I am looking at it from a we have a shortage, but we don't want people to know there's a shortage. So, how are we going to address this shortage going forward? And I see DJ Benza. I see I've gotten a lot of comments. I promise I'll read them in a second, but Benza's just killed me right there. Said the peak irony, the MAGA may be eating their own pets in a few years because the entire election was won on they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Eat the cat, eat the cat. But so if you only found this show after I was on the radio, you have no idea why I sing that every time. And there used to be a song that was created with something online. But so I feel that. And I see people I'm not saying it's a distraction. Hold on. I'm building to something here. Let the show build for a second. All questions will be answered momentarily. I'm glad you figured it out there, Justin. But so there is a clip. As you guys know, Trump is an America First president. I'm sure we can all agree on that. There's been no evidence to lead us to believe that he doesn't actually operate that way, right? Of course, I'm being sarcastic. Allow me to play a clip for you guys here. This is Trump. I'm assuming not on the decoy plane. He's on Air Force One for this particular conversation. He is talking about beef. Now, keep in mind, dozens of cattle farmers are going out of business weekly in America. I want to play this clip for you here about why he has decided to do a different deal that really doesn't address the shortcomings for those cattle farmers at all. Give this a listen.
Question is, what do you have to say to U.S. farmers who feel that the deal is benefiting Argentina more than it is them, as they are
Argentina's fighting for its life, young lady. You don't know anything about it. They're fighting for their life. Nothing's benefiting Argentina. They're fighting for their life. You understand what that means? They have no money. They have no anything. They're fighting so hard to survive. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. I think he's trying to do the best he can. But don't make it sound like they're doing great. They are dying. All right? They're dying.
So, first of all, the reason they're dying is because they elected a president who cut a bunch of government programs and decided that it would be better if they just cut taxes for billionaires and allowed all of them to get the money. It sounds familiar. I can't place it, and it's embarrassing. Like, Argentina's situation does sound familiar to me, but I just can't place exactly what country I'm thinking of when I hear that people are doing that kind of thing. But this was the America First president, right? And it seems as though Argentina's cattle ranchers are of much more concern to the Trump administration than anyone else. Now, let's look at everything that I have just stated. Again, the horse thing is a rumor, but we do know that horses are being scooped up and sold at criminally low rates to countries where they often engage in the slaughter and consumption of horse meat. We know that the cost of beef in America has essentially doubled over the course of the last 6 years, and the Trump administration is only making it worse. We know that Donald Trump just stated that he is intending to do a deal with Argentina to get their beef. By the way, communist China, communist China, who we don't want to emulate at all, they decided that they do not want Argentinian beef because they are allowed to inject it with different chemicals and carcinogens that the government of China does not want their citizens consuming. Don't worry about us, though. We pay for our for-profit healthcare. Shove these fat. You're starting to see the game that's happening right now. Now, again, not all of this is provable, and I always tell you guys when I cannot confirm something I am saying, but what I can do is give you guys a ton of pieces to a puzzle and show you guys how I put them together and let you all jump to your own conclusions here. And then on top of all of this, we are escalating a tariff war that is only going to bring prices higher than they already are. Canada and America seem to be at an impasse with a 50% tariff hike coming our way. And I have to say, this feels incredibly avoidable. And most importantly, it's not accomplishing the goals that it was said to accomplish. If you really believe, and I'll get into that in a second. If you really believe that we've been losing on all of these tariff deals, all of these trade deals, and that's what's causing your cost of living price crisis, I don't know what it is that I can tell you to change your mind at this point. Like I tell you guys, I notice trends, and I've been on social media a little more than I am used to, and I'm noticing things. And there are not a lot of people with kid gloves on anymore when it comes to Trump voters. And I find that to be very interesting. And I dabble, right? If you're rude, I try my best to remain courteous at all times. But let's be real. There's your Todd Pingles out there that push the envelope a bit too far. And then sometimes you got to let people have it. But by and large, if you voted for Trump based on your economic concerns during the Biden administration, I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. If you're not willing to admit that the economy has only gotten worse under Donald Trump, I don't take you seriously anymore, because now you're just in the cult. You should be sitting there with Natalie, writing weird fucking love letters to the president, because you're not looking at this with a critical eye anymore. And people are getting angrier and angrier because all of our cost of living is going up. The businesses are getting the tariffs returned to them. We are paying the excess costs. And by and large, this has been an entire new tax that Americans have had to pay to the tune of over $1,000 per family as per these decisions. We're cutting FDA, and I saw Ethan saying something about it before. I posted on Friday a list of 12 different foods that had been recalled after causing bodily harm to Americans, and a shit ton, literally over 1 million people have seen that post at this point, and a shit ton of MAGAs are in my comments saying, Are you telling me that recalls didn't exist during the Biden administration? You liberals have such Trump derangement syndrome. No, recalls existed, but the reason recalls happened by and large was because inspections found those things. I posted an article to my Facebook this morning from CBS News back in April of 2025 announcing that Elon Musk, Doge, and the Trump administration was firing a bunch of inspectors across the FDA because they were kind of woke anyway. And now we have people shitting their intestines out because they ate bad lettuce. That is uniquely Trumpian, MAGA. That is the issue. I am not trying to imply that Joe Biden was the best or even good. I am trying to highlight with empirical, objective facts that Donald Trump is statistically worse by every conceivable metric. And this is just yet another one of them. So you see the food regulations get rolled back. You see the recalls increase. You see the cattle supply decrease as a result of the cost of cattle to begin with, mixed with the screwworm that was also held at bay by another program that was cut because trans people or something. And now you have this conversation about horses being sold at $25 a pop in countries where it's legal to sell them, to eat them, to butcher them. There we go. You love Islam. I love all religions the same. I'll allow you to infer what percentage that is, but I love them all the same. When all of these pieces get added together, it's kind of difficult to avoid what could potentially be a reality that's hard. That's hard for people like Brian Herzog 878 to stomach, because their orange dad president is the end all be all for them. And they can't acknowledge. I'm not willing to make the comparison because I think it makes light of a very serious issue. But people like Brian here are almost like survivors of abuse. Like, he has to disassociate from reality in order to make it seem like what this president is doing is good in any way. Because there are some people, and you watch CNN, MSNBC, they find the clips of the MAGA people that have completely given up on Trump. They're like, I voted for good things and nothing but bad things are happening. I hate this guy. I don't know that I trust politics anymore. But then there's the Bryans, that not you, Brian from Fremont, the Bryans on TikTok. There's the people that will not acknowledge the failings of this president and would rather call you a Muslim than embrace the reality of the situation. Embrace that he might be having you eat horse meat. Embrace that cattle farmers are going bankrupt at a record pace, that farms in general are going bankrupt at a record pace, that the cost of living is only going up after 3 years under Biden of it continuously going down. Not fast enough, but it was going down. And it's so difficult for some of these people to stomach, and it's wild to watch, like, the reactions. I'm telling you, if you're on socials, go on my go read my recall post, go to the comments and look at what people are saying in the comments of those posts. It's wild. In fact, I'm planning a post for after this show today. Here, I'm actually going to have to show TikTok this one. But here's a chart of the debt in America right here. We went over this before, but that orange line there at the end is what would have happened if we didn't do the Trump tariff, the Trump tax cuts, as well as the Bush era tax cuts, even with the pointless wars Republicans forced us into. If we just didn't kiss billionaire ass, this is where the debt would be. This is where the debt ultimately ended up as a result of doing it the way that we did it. And if you go and look at the comments on this post, similarly, they'd say, nah, it's not the tax cuts, it's the government spending. Like, you can show them the mathematical examples of how you end up in this situation, and they still just simply do not give a shit. And it's wild to watch the cognitive dissonance necessary to get you in that mindset. what critters you eat is a cultural thing, but I don't approve of lying about meat source. No regulation on beef is how you get mad cow disease. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, and Justin, by the way, I saw your text late last night. Pete Hegseth is in freaking Oshkosh, down at Oshkosh Truck today. Go buy him a drink. I'm sure he won't turn it down. Look at cow populations versus human population, and the decline of cows should worry meat eaters. Exactly. And what's crazy, Carl, is it's always Republicans saying the liberals are going to limit how much meat you're allowed to eat. And then Trump's going to fuck this up. There's going to be a limit to how much meat you're going to be allowed to eat. And those same Republicans are going to tell you, well, it's not like they're asking you to make that big a sacrifice. You a patriot or not? Because that's how they fucking operate. It's wild. Chris says Trump has made a deal for Russia's rabid cattle as they are having a rabies epidemic there. I hadn't heard that one, but I'll take your word for it. Argentina is fighting for their lives, but it's Trump's guy who did it. Exactly. Aldi got into trouble for selling horse meat, says Bibby. Did they really? I love Aldi. I really hope that didn't actually happen. If you love beef, stock your freezers now while you can get certified American stuff. It is kind of wild, is it not? I'm not eating that Bill Gates lab-grown beef. I'd be happy to have a drink with Pete, but he gets to hear my unfiltered opinion, says Justin. MAGA, I was told there would be no math. Lorelei, welcome to the chat. The decline of cows could end up being an okay thing, right, for the planet? I mean, technically. Again, I don't know if you guys have seen the stats, but one billionaire creates any one person in this chat right now generates as much carbon in their lifetime that a billionaire generates in 90 minutes. So I have heard that the cow farts emit a ton of CO2, a ton of methane into the ozone into the air that could lead towards warming possibilities. And maybe if you really want to put your tinfoil hat on, that's why they're doing this dumb shit and forcing us into this in a way to limit the cattle production. And then the price is going to shoot up even further, and those of us eating steak will only be the richest among us. Steak will be a true luxury for people instead of going for, like, I don't even know what it used to be. But you know what I mean? Instead of just being something, let's just say I didn't grow up in a wealthy house and I was eating steak all the time. So it's not and what's funny is if this happened under Kamala or Hillary, it would have been World War III. It would have been something biblical. It would have been something about a plague. But because it's under Donald Trump, it's like, well, he's trying his best, We're America. It's absolutely wild seeing this stuff happen. And now we are picking an even larger fight with Canada. This guy is dropping the ball by every conceivable metric. Like, it's not even close. And he still is, like, I recognize that he's approaching record low approval ratings, but how the fuck is it not 15%? You know what I mean? Like, is it really being mean to Mexicans is all you need for 30% of the population to jump on board? Because genuinely, what are you clinging to in the year of our Lord 2026 under a Trump administration? What about this administration is like, yes, thank God Kamala's not president, otherwise, bleh. Like, what else would be happening in your mind? Mexicans and trans people, says Jar Manny. Herb says at festival on Friday they had ribeye for almost $20 a pound in the reduced bin. Not stocking the freezer with that. Power data centers with cow produced methane. I think that's kind of outside the box we're here for, Jeff. Old Lib, that sounds like a terrible farm to work on and maybe animal mistreatment. Looks like Lorelei disagrees with you. Now I'm going to hear about it. Great. Canada is the best possible neighbor, and Donnie Dumbass is trashing the relationship. And here's the thing, he's trashing the relationship in a way that's going to be very difficult to come back from, because if you are in Canada, you know that we are always one transgender surgery for a soldier away from another 4 years of a shitty relationship with you. So, like, do you really want to deal with that kind of volatility, or are you going to look elsewhere? If you were running your own business, what would your move be? Because I know what my move would be, and I've been told that I don't know the first thing about running a business. D says Trump's nominee for FDA head stood beside him when he made ridiculous childhood vaccine executive orders. She wants to roll back approval for I saw that on medication, abortion, drugs. Women's rights are extinction level right now. It's really hard to watch. And again, they're clapping for it. They're clapping for it. They'll tell you that it's because of welfare that their costs, like, it's just such an information crisis that I don't know how you claw out of. You know what I mean? It's hard to watch it happen. It's hard for me to watch it happen because I don't want to believe that we are this stupid as a population. Again, and like, to you listening, and I know there's probably not a good chance many MAGAs have survived this far into this rant, but like, please understand, I have a second hour plan to highlight how much the Dems suck. Please understand, the reason the Dems are able to suck is because your dad president sucks that much worse. Like, I'm praying you, wake the fuck up. Like, please understand that your disdain for Democrats is shared by me. But the reason why I'm going to go and vote Democrats is because this president has shoved his head up his ass, and the rest of you have followed him up there. Anybody still supporting this? Here's a fun fact. Donald Trump has cut cancer research. He's cut national parks, the Department of Education, public broadcasting, research grants, Centers for Disease Control, National Institute of Health, Housing and Urban Development, USAID, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, SNAP, FEMA, EPA, NOAA, anything else that might accidentally help people. You want to know what costs more? Fucking everything. You want to know what costs less? Not a goddamn thing. Maybe embrace that he doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe embrace that the $400 extra you're going to make in your tax cuts are not going to carry you where you need to be in your life. Maybe embrace that while you might not understand the LGBTQ lifestyle, it has not a single impact on your capacity to live your life. And everything I am listing does. Is it possible to maybe embrace that reality, or are you that far lost? I have a rando on TikTok. We all know how well these go, but I'm going to go against my better judgment and give this a whack anyway. We'll see what happens. What's on your mind there, John?
Put your dick in my mouth, please.
Okay, thanks for being here, John. Like I said, you always kind of play with fire on that one there. I believe that kid was 11 years old, so that's fun. I blame The Apprentice for the delusion that Trump is a great businessman. Well, it's a number of things, KG. And that's what sucks most of all about this. Now I'm going to tangent because that was a great comment. It should really go to show you how much of perception is reality, right? Like, if there was a show on Showtime called Weeds, where a traditional suburban housewife loses her husband, who was the breadwinner of the family, so she goes on to become a drug dealer. It was like a PG-rated version of Breaking Bad. The first season was good. It kind of fell off after that. There was a season where she ends up in the richest part of New York City, and she's selling the same stuff, but she puts it in a really nice box. And instead of selling it for $60 per person, she sells it for $500 per person. And people buy it because it looks nicer, because the presentation was nicer. That's basically Donald Trump. And some of you hate that, and I understand that. But there is an element of people out there that when they see him putting the gold everywhere in the White House, as Sensei says, marketing, exactly. When they see him putting the gold everywhere, it's no different than what he did at Trump buildings. Is the country better? No. But he's going to build an arch, and he's going to put gold everywhere, and he's going to do all this dumb shit that doesn't empirically change your life in any kind of reasonable way. And if you are inclined to be in the cult, you are going to clap like the trained seal that you are for those things and continue thinking that he is a good businessman. So I don't blame The Apprentice. As much as you're not going to want to hear this, Trump is quite bright, not in the knowing things kind of way, but as I've stated, you take your skills and use them how you can. Trump is very good at knowing that people out there are pissed and knowing how to tell them what they want to hear. Even if Hakeem Jeffries has no intention of passing Medicare for all, why not just say you fucking love it because 7 out of 10 Democrats want it? That's the kind of simple kind of messaging that Trump masters that seems simple today, but that leadership in other parts of politics can't seem to wrap their mind around. And then you're told you better show up and support that guy. Otherwise, you're going to have to deal with 5 more years of Trump. And nobody wants 5 more years of Trump except for the biggest morons that are still hanging out in the cult. It's the two-party system personified. And that's kind of the theme of the show today, although the real theme is that none of our food is edible, that it's all becoming poison very slowly, and we're supposed to pretend like this is normal from the perspective of a lot of people in this country, that this is better than whatever the hell. Kim says women are willing to give up their right to vote if they are in a marriage and willing to give it to their husbands so they vote as one household, a one-vote household. This is a white Christian nationalist movement is preaching. Oh, absolutely. And there are some women willing to go along with that, which is crazy. What's up, Wisco Charles? Thanks for being here. Violated Elf says it's been poisoning us for years. Yes, but here's the difference. And realistically, this ties into the corruption as well. Have politicians always been corrupt? Yes. It's the brazen nature. It's that I'm going to be corrupt and there's not a single goddamn thing that you can do about it. You can either cheer for me, you can cry about it, or you can put your head in the sand and pretend you don't know what you're looking at. But just know that I'm going to rake in billions of dollars off of the systems that are meant to help you, and you put me here. And it's the same idea with the foods. Democrats weren't any better, right? No. Well, yes, they were, because this is brazen. I should say they weren't any good. It's more so that they weren't as brazen. Now they are brazen about it, and it's disgusting. And it's much more on people's minds. But as I oftentimes highlight for you guys, my downloads doubled, literally doubled on January 20th, 2025. I didn't all of a sudden get good at radio on that day. People start paying attention more. I'm a firm believer, and you can call this Pollyannish, but I am a firm believer that if we work hard enough, Donald Trump's legacy, he's trying to put his name on all this shit, right? He's trying to build all of this shit. He wants that to be his legacy. What I'm saying his legacy can be if we work hard enough is we all got our asses off the sideline and said, we are not willing to accept this from anybody. It's why you're starting to see politicians win primaries and general elections without any corporate funding. There is a chance. I used to have 2 professors on my show all the time. One of them was only a couple years older than me, but then one of them's pushing 80. And anytime I would talk about this kind of stuff, and he would talk about how hypocrisy in politics is baked into the system, there is nothing you can do about it. They're all hypocrites. And my response would always be, that's fine if that's how it always worked. I don't accept that now. And if enough of us take that kind of attitude, we can not only get the food back to where it was, which, as Violated Elf highlights, is not an acceptable level. It was not an acceptable level, much like the cost of living crisis was not at an acceptable point, much like our cost of healthcare was not at an acceptable point. We can actually make it better than what it was, but it's going to require an actual resistance party. It's why some of you get so pissed off when I turn over and just start hooking Democrats, because you're the people that are supposed to offer the better solution. If Republicans want to be the obviously bad idea party, that's fine. But then you have to be the, oh, well, you have to be something more than the, well, we'll be 4% better than that party. Like, that might win elections half the time, which might be their goal, but it's not going to just put this MAGA shit to bed, which should be the ultimate goal. Yeah, Trump was running out of money before he took office, Violet says. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that totally. But like, if you haven't heard, the failing New York Times is reporting that Hakeem Jeffries has been meeting with Jared Kushner directly from the subline, the subheader there. President Trump's son-in-law and the man in line to be Speaker of a Democratic-led House discussed how Democrats and the administration could work together. If you haven't seen yet, I made a video. The article is from January, but it's talking about how 7 Democrats voted to fund ICE and how Hakeem Jeffries did not whip votes against ICE. And the logic at the time was, we do not want to be perceived as soft on crime. Spoiler warning, liberals, you're going to be called soft on crime no matter what the fuck you do. So, like, maybe just do the things your voters want. If you can get a chance to see that video, we'll be talking more in depth about this in the 10 o'clock hour. What's up, Kevin? 50% of U.S. adult citizens, according to a YouGov poll, support abolishing ICE, not reforming it, not firing who's there and putting new people in there, not reworking the systems, straight up abolishing it. 50% of adults, not Democrats, adults. 77% of Democrats, 52% of independents, 23% of Republicans support abolishing ICE. And 7 Democrats voted with every single Republican in the House and Senate to make sure that we shot that funding through the roof while gutting social programs that were keeping so many people in this nation afloat. Explain that to me. And I'm supposed to pretend like, yeah, Ben, these Dems suck, but remember, democracy's at stake. Joseph says, yeah, amazing how someone who is not in any public office got to sit with the House Minority Leader. Exactly. Exactly, dude. Like, and not only is it someone that's not elected, it's fucking a haunted porcelain doll that came to life known as Jared Kushner. Like, of all the people to sit with, of all of the politically toxic people, for the people that are supposed to be motivated to show up and vote for you. You know what this says to me? It says that Donald Trump is failing on so many fronts that Democrats know that they're going to whoop Republican ass in November, and they're not even worried. They're not even worried. Justin liked my porcelain doll reference. Violet says he wishes he were a real boy. I'm saying, though. Checking the Book of Faces here really quickly as I move on. Bear with me. But it's just hard to stomach sometimes. need to get Trump's name on high-speed rail, then it might actually happen. I might make a video today and caption it that way. D, that's funny. Oh wait, what did Sam Plass say there? It's getting old having the party I have voted for constantly trying to play nice and play by the rules. Meanwhile, they just get run over when they aren't in the majority. Well, I think that's by design, Sam Plass. Like, I don't want them to play by the rules. I've actually been on the record multiple times over saying I want a left-wing Trump. I want a left-winger who says, I'm not going to abolish ICE, but instead of aiming them at immigrants, I want to aim them at billionaires and just have thousands of poorly trained individuals following billionaires everywhere, pulling guns for no reason and standing in front of their cars until they're willing to release pertinent tax information. Like, that's what I want. And then let the courts figure it out for 9 months whether or not what that president is doing is legal or not. Like, sign me up for that reality. Like I said, if Donald Trump has opened my eyes to anything, it's that one jagoff can become president and completely reshape the American government in their image. The only difference is it doesn't have to be in a shittier direction. It could be in a direction that accidentally works for a lot of us. When I was talking about all the cuts, I believe it was Joseph, also highlighted that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has also been gutted. Excuse me. And you're exactly right, as has the National Labor Relations Board as well. Like, you can elect people that are not only going to tax the shit out of billionaires, but are going to increase union strength, that are going to go gung-ho, not invest billions of dollars in renewable energy and use those billions of dollars to build 7 electrical car chargers, to truly do transcendent renewable energy platforms without eliminating energy. Keep in mind, Gary, Indiana is pushing 2 weeks now without any energy. Granted, there's a lot of people that believe it's because of the large black population there, and I have to say I wouldn't be surprised. And for the record, for consistency's sake, when Joe Biden didn't show up to East Palestine, Ohio in 4 days, I was livid, because I was like, I feel like there should be more of a national spotlight on what's going on here. Donald Trump is the energy president, and he has not showed up at Gary, Indiana. He's a fucking loser. He's a loser. What the hell else is he doing? Flying around with Natalie, right? Definitely not going to Gary, Indiana to let people know that their complaints are heard. Meanwhile, he is killing every possible green energy initiative that is out there when clearly we are not generating enough energy. By the way, in Gary, Indiana, there are 8 data centers that use a crap ton of energy down there, which, I don't know, might be having an impact on the energy grid out there. I can't confirm that, but you tell me if that sounds right or wrong. Give me a president that means business on that front. Give me a president that isn't going to ask nicely, that isn't going to find out. Give me a president that's going to executive order his way into it and just figure it out. Because you say, KG, or whoever it was that said it, I don't remember who said it, I apologize, that you're sick and tired of having a Democratic Party that's willing to try and play nice. That's not what it is. Allow me to show you what it is. Here's a conversation on Fox News with the one and only yacht riding jackass, Joe Manchin, who decided to kill any pro-working class legislation that was out there during the Biden administration. And he was championed by media at the time, liberal media, as being a pragmatic centrist. You know, with wins above replacement, he's still better than a Republican. Was he now? Let's examine that, shall we? AOC has been making quite a bit of headlines lately, and people are speculating as to whether or not she's going to run for president. I actually don't know if she will or won't, by the way. But here's a conversation on Fox News with Joe Manchin talking about the idea of AOC for president. And this is that playing nice that you're talking about. They don't play by the rules because they're good people. They play by the rules because they know the rules will hamper them and they won't be able to do good shit. Case in point.
So she was not happy that you didn't want to add 2 states and blow up the filibuster and sign off on trillions and trillions of dollars. And you two never made up. Could you back her for president?
Oh, no, absolutely not. But here, I mean, she has a place, I guess, within the constituency where she comes from in one part, little part of New York. If that's what they choose, then fine. I respect that. They can have what they want. I don't want her as a leader of our country at all. I think it would be devastating. And she knows that. We have differences of opinion. You can still be respectful to each other and just totally disagree. I disagree that there's some stability needs. We need energy. She wanted all green energy. Well, guess what? Tell me what 5 hours of the day you want your energy, and that's what you'll get if you want to go down her path. You have got to have energy that basically supports this great country, but also uses the greatest of technology to make sure that we're doing it in coexistence with our environment. We have a responsibility, and we can do that, Brian. These people are absolutely unbelievable in their wish list that makes no sense, and nobody can live their life that way. You better find a balance. Now, she was saying, yeah, I was resistant to a lot of the crazy stuff. I told them up front, don't give me the crazy. Don't give me advocates and zealots and everybody else that you want to confirm. I'm not going to do that. Don't be spending money without paying for the bill. And I've said this, $40 trillion of debt right now and no one speaking about it. You want to blame President Trump? Go right ahead. You want to blame President Biden? Go right ahead. It's everybody's fault. Someone better sit down and be serious about getting this debt under control. If not, you can forget about everything else because it'll all come crumbling down and you can't stop it.
So he's not willing to talk about the tax cuts, as I highlighted in the chart that I threw up on the screen earlier. He's not going to talk about the tax cuts and forever wars that got us there. He's going to talk about the social spending, right? Because he's better than a liberal, or he's better than a conservative, right? That's what we are told. That's what we are expected to believe when we hear this guy talk. And we're supposed to say that's a principled man. We're supposed to say, well, you know, you might not agree with it, but you have to respect it. No, I think you're misrepresenting what a lot of people in this country want to see happen. AOC is popular. Mamdani is popular. Bernie is popular. These are some of the most popular people in politics, and there is a reason why. And you have a constant effort to try and gaslight people into thinking that they can't win, that their ideas are loopy. Go find me where it is deemed that people want to shut down oil and gas drilling tomorrow and switch to an entirely green infrastructure. You go find me that. Yes, there are people that go further than others in terms of fracking and drilling and oil and gas production. Here's the simple truth. In 2023, Joe Biden set the record for oil and gas drilling. In 2024, Joe Biden set the record for oil and gas drilling. In 2025, Donald Trump set the record for oil and gas drilling. And in 2026, we are not meeting our capacity for energy. It's almost like maybe we should diversify the options that we have. But that's not the conversation that is happening on a news source now, is it? They'd rather spin it that way. So when we talk about Democrats playing by the rules, when we talk about Democrats not willing to get their hands dirty or trying to play nice, that's not an accident. No one in the party is asking for that. What's up, Eljo? Case in point. By the way, Eljo, you told me to switch to professional mode on Facebook, and I have gained over 4,000 followers in like 72 hours. It's been wild what's happening. I have no idea if that's a coincidence, but like you may have completely revolutionized my online presence. So I appreciate you very much. Never leave. I have another one. We're gonna do it again. Just because I can't help myself. So if you remember correctly, back in 2024, as I oftentimes highlight, for about 2 weeks after this clip's going to be a bit longer, but it's worth listening to. After 2 weeks of Kamala Harris running on corporate greed and cracking down on the obvious gouging that is taking place in basically every industry as they have consolidated down to between 3 and 5 major players. She ran on that for 2 weeks before Liz Cheney Reid Hoffman, and the person who I'd like to highlight here, Mark Cuban, all got involved and said, nah, fuck that. Run towards the center. You don't want to like actually say the stuff that makes sense. Run towards the center and see what happens. And we saw what happened. And like, liberals, I love you, but in a lot of ways, you really are like Lucy trying to kick that football. And it's like Elon Musk was a shithead. We talked about this on Friday. I knew Elon Musk was a shithead back in the 2010s, but because he made electric vehicles and he said all the liberal talking points, and he actually was very pro LGBTQ at that point of his life before his daughter came out as trans, all of you loved him, despite the fact that he was a billionaire and a piece of shit. Now you all recognize Elon Musk sucks, which is great. Here's the problem. Mark Cuban sucks too. And I'm saying that as somebody, he's from my hometown. Like a lot of people from where I'm from like Mark Cuban. You know what I mean? He sucks. Any billionaire sucks. He does suck less than most billionaires, in my opinion. But it doesn't mean he doesn't suck. He runs a essentially an intermediary in the healthcare field. He had Kamala Harris won, would have had a major role in American healthcare. It probably would be less expensive than it is because, again, Donald Trump sucks at everything. He is bad at everything, but it still wouldn't have been good. I shared a chart on Saturday on my Facebook page of healthcare costs. Actually, hold on. I can probably just, let's see. Can I share my screen twice or does it not work that way? All right. So I have to stop sharing that screen. This is going to be a bit of a bitch, but I think it's going to be worth it long term. Okay. So we'll bring that up. We got to go here just for a visual representation. Okay. I don't want to hear you talk though. Tiny head me, but nope. Okay, there we go. All right. So if you look at this chart, the further up the chart goes, I'm gonna have to show TikTok this as well. The further up you go on the chart, that means you live longer. And the further to the right that you are, that means that you pay more per capita. So you can see every other country with universal health care all clustered up there in the upper corner. You guys see where I'm talking about? And then that red line is USA, the one that veers way off to the right and only goes about halfway up the chart. So we pay the most and have the worst outcomes. And the craziest part is that is a chart that ends in 2018. So you can only imagine post-COVID and more importantly, post-Trump, exactly how bad that it has become over the course of the last 8 years, right? So now you have Mark Cuban. Let me get this back up here. You have Mark Cuban going on Pivot. I can't think of the woman's name who hosts this podcast right now. Kara Swisher. I remembered it. Kara Swisher is the host of it here. Again, liberal darling, right? Little bit of a longer clip here, but now that we know that every other industrialized nation on the planet lives longer and pays less per capita, let's listen to what the big-brained Mark Cuban has to say about Medicare for all. I'm sure this won't piss any of you off at all.
I'll use Medicare for all as an example, because since we're talking healthcare, like there was that study, I don't know if you saw it, that said Medicare for all would save $1 trillion. Sounds great, right? Until you look at the fine print and see all the references that they used, right? So I looked at these numbers to get to $1 trillion, and one of the numbers was $265 billion and it was elimination of fraud. I'm like, $265 billion, that's a big number.
Elon tried it. I think he cost us money.
It didn't work at all, right?
No, right.
So I go down to the footnotes and I'm like, okay, there's this article that was written in 2003 about Taiwan and their conversion to universal health care. I'm like, okay, so what happened? Well, Taiwan went from a paper system, basically, and a market-driven system to a transition to universal health care. It was a disaster the first couple of years. But
Then
there
what
was this
happened?
article written that said they saved 8% on waste. So what does the authors of this
They just
article?
extrapolate. They
They
extrapolate.
extrapolate from Taiwan from 1995, a paper-based system, and they applied it to the U.S. budget, right? And so they get, 3 trillion times 8%, and it gets near 265 billion. That is the problem. You got something that everybody wants. Like if we walked out there and we said it's $1 a month to give healthcare for each person, $1 a month per person. Everybody like, yeah, let's go. Republicans before it, everybody before it, right? But we're not trying to figure out a solution, right? We don't know what those costs are. A lot of the reasons we talked about earlier, but you can't lie about it.
No.
You have to put together a plan that gets you from here to there.
Yes.
Another thing that they did was they said, if we change the, what we pay the best hospitals in the country, right, to Medicare rates, they would make up the losses in revenue by the reduction in administrative costs. That's the biggest bunch of horseshit. If you walk into a really nice hospital, right, it's designed to be a really nice hospital. It's got all the machines that go ping, the really, really expensive stuff, right? And they've got the most expensive doctors. If you start paying doctors in those hospitals Medicare rates, you know what they're going to do? They're going to opt out. They're not going to be available to anybody on Medicare, right? And the hospitals are going to opt out. But in both Bernie's and Representative Jayapal's Medicare for All, right, like in this article, in this study, they just accepted that as fact. There's just no way. And then the creme de la creme in both of those Medicare for All legislations that were proposed, Section 4, administration. At the discretion of the Secretary of Health and Human Services, they have the option to figure out everything, basically. It's a fucking politically appointed position. How would it be going right now? Right?
Yes. We'd all have measles. Measles for everybody, and then salmonella. A disaster.
So it goes on for another 60 seconds, but I feel like we all get the point that I am trying to make here. And, man, when Mark's right, he's right. Administrative costs, right? Machines that go ping, as he so eloquently put it. He clearly knows exactly what he's talking about. I would hate if in that same video I made, there were some direct one-to-one example of exactly what's happened to administrative costs over the course of the last, 35 years or so. Like, that would be awful if there was some very, very obvious thing that we could all point to and be like, oh, wow, when you see the administrative costs laid out like that, that's kind of wild. For the record, the chart that you are looking at there, the green is what physicians are getting paid over the course of the last 35 years. That line that basically is a straight horizontal line, that red line that balloons the fuck up in the mid-90s and then has gradually been increasing ever since, is the manager's cost, the administrative cost that goes into healthcare. It's almost like that is exactly one of the major drivers of what is going on in healthcare costs. And fun fact, it's also one of the major driving costs in the incredibly ballooned cost of college. It's almost like these issues all share the same problems, and the powers that be want to play dumb. Meanwhile, Mark Cuban gets to go on one of the most publicized podcasts that are out there and espouse this rhetoric about how there's no workable system that shows how this works. Meanwhile, all you have to do is look at any interpretation of the data and show exactly how bad we are getting fleeced, whether it be monetarily. And by the way, because I don't think I said it, that chart that I showed you wasn't about cost overall, because obviously a country of 370 million people is going to be more than a country of 3 million. That was cost per capita. That was how much money is each person paying for healthcare in a country. And just to be clear, the bulk of the countries were somewhere between $2,000 per person and $6,000 per person. America was at 10. Even if we got it to 6, that would still be kind of right. It would still be kind of but it would be a lot better than 10. But nah, actually, it's impossible. There's a running bit that Democrats run on the idea that better things aren't possible. And the older I get, the further along I go. It kind of does feel like that's accurate. And then old Lib comes on. He says, I'd take Mark Cuban over RFK Jr. I would agree. I think most people with a basic capacity for deductive reasoning would agree. But also, fuck Mark Cuban. Like, that is the false choice promised by a failing two-party system. Like, that is one of the major issues that we are facing, is that you sit there and you're like, well, measles has come back, which, of course, they make that comparison there, saying that if we went to Medicare for all, measles will come back. Joseph says, unfortunately, Democrats' entire ticket is less harm. Exactly. It's fundamentally what it boils down to is Mark Cuban, as a billionaire, has access to the best healthcare on the planet. If you are indescribably wealthy, you want to be sick in America. And for the 3 million people that applies to worldwide, they're like, yeah, I'm going to America to receive the top-notch care that's going to cost me hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, but I'm going to survive whatever this ailment is. It's like the episode of South Park when Cartman and Kyle get AIDS, and so they go to meet Magic Johnson and try and figure out because he has been able to live with it. And he's like, well, I don't know what I do differently than anybody else, but you're welcome to look at my house. And they go into his house and he's just got piles of money everywhere. And they found out that you have to grind up $180,000 in cash and inject it into your body, and then you can overcome the illness. That's why Mark Cuban is trying to convince you that this isn't a workable healthcare system, because he would receive the same healthcare as everybody else, which to people like that bothers them. That is fundamentally what it is. And more importantly, 35% of the population are going to go along for the ride. Brian says, if any politician cuts Social Security and Medicare before cuts are made to military and multiple pork barrel projects, there will be a revolution. Juba says, that revolution is long overdue. All we need is a massive labor strike along with farm tractors rolling into cities if they can't afford the diesel fuel. Feel that? When anybody says we can't do it, I know two things. They just don't want to, or they don't care. Probably both. I find it super funny. Data centers in space, homes on Mars, but at Medicare for all, bah, exactly. It's funny how friendly billionaires are until you start poking around how they make their money or their prospects. Oh, that's going to be fun. Yeah, you're not wrong. Can you guys hear the hammering, or is the noise cancellation canceling that out? Because that's super enjoyable. Thank you for all the gifts, gamer. But like, this is why it's going to end up closer in November than it has to be. Because they would rather embrace Mark Cuban than Bernie Sanders. They'd rather embrace Joe Manchin than Abdul El-Sayed, right? Now data centers are a major talking point. Now that Francesca Hong's out of the race. Now that the person who meant the most business about it, now we can see if we can push the guy that only sort of means business about it. I actually came across some interesting polling data from Fox News. If this is only people that oppose data centers. So if you said I'm in favor of it, you were not included in this list, okay? And you were not limited to one answer. So you could check multiple boxes because the percentages whoever gamed, I meant violated. I apologize if I said gamer. I'm just, doing a lot of things. There's hammering in my head. Well, when you guys heard that hammering, that's what it sounds like in my head all the time. But so the percentages aren't going to add up to 100%. But these are reasons why you oppose data centers. Environmental concerns, 50%. Uses too much energy, 29%. Environmental impact, 13%. Noise concerns, 4. Pollution, 4. Quality of life concerns, 14. Taking up too much space, 4. Doesn't fit the character of my area. I'm surprised that's not 100. It's 4. Negative impact on community, 2. Congestion, traffic concerns, 2. Health and safety concerns, 1. Have more important priorities, 1. Impact on electricity, water rates, and costs, 10%. Not good for the economy, 2%. Don't like AI, don't trust AI, 10%. Privacy concerns, used for surveillance, 1%. That actually hurt. That actually hurt that only 1% of the people polled considered the privacy element of it. Need more information, 3. Not needed, not necessary, 3. Or other, 4%. The idea that there's this many different, this is a Fox News poll, mind you, and yet we are finding ways to build these fucking things all over the nation at a breakneck pace when there are so many concerns. But as Brian highlights, healthcare, fixing healthcare is a much more complicated process that we shouldn't consider, as if we don't all have access to the same internet with the same information telling us what we need to know. And don't get me wrong, Donald Trump's solution of let's remove government subsidies and raise healthcare costs by $600 per family for every family is the worst fucking option. Like, I feel like sometimes the abject shittiness of the Republican Party gets lost in the fact that I am so pissed off that the Democrats do not have the intestinal fortitude to come through for people when they need it most. So I really want to make sure that I hook back around and just highlight that objectively Republicans are worse by every conceivable metric that we could talk about here surrounding data care or surrounding healthcare or data centers for that matter. But it doesn't give you the excuse to be like, well, we'll make it 4% cheaper. So what do you want, voters? Do you want the same price or do you want 4% knocked off? It's like, well, I'd rather you just let democracy take hold and let us vote on it. I see you asking, Sensei, that was the 4%. It says NIMBY / doesn't fit the character of my area. So NIMBY is there. As I said, I'm surprised NIMBY isn't 100% of the people. By the way, I'm moving in 5 days. For anybody. Yeah, 4%, dude. I was just as surprised as you were. I'm moving in 4 days, so only a little bit longer with this kind of stuff. I'm surprised this kind of stuff doesn't happen more often in this studio, honestly, because anytime someone moves out, they just rip the apartment down to the studs and rebuild it back up. Probably a tax write-off, if I had to guess. And I've been sitting there, I'm like, inevitably someone's going to move while I'm doing this, and it's going to be really hard to do this show. But we've been, cross our fingers, we've been very, very fortunate thus far. Bear with me for one moment here as I check. Seems like we've popped off quite a few more comments here in the Facebook chat. Wait, it's less about where the money is going than where it is no longer coming from. Tax cuts. How about what are they actually doing? I agree. And we haven't seen prices come down. We haven't seen wages go up. We haven't seen any of the things that are promised with trickle-down economics, as we never do, because it's a stupid economic policy that only children still fall for. But I think that's a fair thing to point out here as well. Clearly, they have not driven the kind of growth we needed and should subsequently be rolled back. But in an effort to try and win over Republican voters, as the Democrats love to do, they are going to run on cuts to austerity. Hell, look at the David Crowley commercial that's playing right now. It talks about tax cuts and policing. Like, I promise you, you're not winning over any converts with that. I guarantee you are not winning on any converts with that. You are definitely pissing off the people that might show up for you, though, which if that was your goal, if your goal is to make this race as close as it physically can become, you're nailing it in spades. But otherwise, maybe it's about time we start changing up the policy here a little bit. I'm not telling you how to live your life, but also I kind of am. I have a knack for predicting these kind of things. I need quiet background music that syncs with hammers beats. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I just got to tough it out. One more week. I'm so excited. This week's going to suck, by the way. I got so much to do. It's going to be great in the long run. I'm very excited for the new studio. I'm very excited for all the cool things that are coming. I'm very excited for my new apartment, which just looks so fancy. I'm excited to decorate it to make it look fancier so I don't give off divorced dad vibes. Like, it's all going to be good. But I mean, it really is tough to stomach right now. Yeah, we jumped into the Terrafor to start the show today, trucking. It's tough to stomach, and again, it's even further. It makes it even more difficult to know that Hakeem Jeffries is trying to work with Jared Kushner, that Kamala Harris wanted to run with Mark Cuban, who also said during that interview that if he would run as a Republican because the DSA is so full of crazies. You're right. No, you should run on the let's have a massed Virgin Army murdering Americans in the street because, those DSA, they question the genocide surrounding Thanksgiving. Like, what are we talking about? I did, Moondog. It's just they're giving us two absolutely trash situations and forcing us to vote between them. And then on top of that, you have this conversation here. The median voter in America they struggle with the basics of politics. Case in point, as I've highlighted a billion times over, people always called me a moderate, right? When I was on that little radio station that I'm 300 followers on Facebook away from passing them up. When I was on that radio station, people would say, I love Ben's moderate takes. He just gets it. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there screaming, Medicare for all, tax the rich, borders kind of are made up. And but I just had a way of talking about it in ways that people appreciated. This is a real piece of text from an individual Substack that I want to read for you here. In the week after the June 24 primary election for mayor, I was determined to meet with voters in conservative neighborhoods where Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, had performed surprisingly well. Again, because leftist policies are popular when you take the labels out of it. In a Howard Beach precinct where Mamdani won, I met a couple who, despite being conservative, voted for Mamdani because they bizarrely thought he had run to the right of former Governor Andrew Cuomo and also believed he was Italian American as his name ended in an I and he was from Astoria. I had dug further into why they thought he was running to the right of Cuomo. They noted that it was because he discussed prices and the cost of living, as Donald Trump had in 2024. They both voted for Trump. They had a hard time believing Mamdani was a socialist because they believed socialists support making everything more expensive. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. It's wild. I'm not saying what city I'm moving to, Kevin. I regret telling people that I lived in Menasha. I'm keeping that part a secret. That's who's voting in America. And as Joseph highlights, they believe Trump's rhetoric. But here's the thing, Joseph. Yes, you're right. They believe Trump's rhetoric. And I'm not breaking news to anybody listening to this podcast right now that Trump is a fucking liar. Why can't liberals pick up on that? Why are liberals going out saying, as I've stated before, I am not a fan of Medicare for all at all. As I've stated before, our allies in the Middle East have a right to defend themselves. As I've stated before, if we cut taxes for billionaires, what's that going to do to growth in this nation? Why is it so difficult, even if you don't believe it? Which I don't want them to lie. I'd rather they admit what they think and then just lose their primaries horribly. But why can't they realize that Republicans in New York associate Mom Donnie with Trump because Trump talked about cost of living so much and Mom Donnie talked about cost of living so much? What do you all infer from that? Right? Before I even tell you what to take from that, what conclusion do you all jump to? If Mom Donnie is the most popular politician in America right now, and right-wingers associated him with Donald Trump because of the way he was speaking, who does that mean they weren't associating them with then? The Democrats. There's a problem here. There's a big fucking problem here that I think is being ignored. And you're exactly right. We all know he's lying, but that doesn't matter to people. What matters is they feel like they're being heard. And most importantly, Republicans don't have a left flank, right? MAGA isn't going to abandon Trump, isn't going to abandon the Republican Party. Liberals have to convince leftists, like, yeah, we're not going to just do the Republican light thing. And that's a hard hill to climb, especially when you're probably going to do the Republican light thing. So there comes a time when you just have to call a spade a spade. Right now in New York, you know what the largest kind of theft is in America? Do you think it's retail theft? Do you think it's grand theft auto? Do you think it's armed robbery? Bank theft? No. The number one theft in America is wage theft. People not being fully paid for their hours, not being paid overtime, not being paid for the services rendered. What Democrat is running on cracking down on wage theft? Oh, I know one. A wage theft complaint and a criminal case used to move on separate tracks. Now, DCWP and the DA's office are working off the same information at the same time. That's faster accountability for the people who need it most. The delivery worker who didn't get paid, the tenant getting pushed out of their home, and the immigrant who got fleeced on a notario. I wonder what politician is actually, it's Mayor Mamdani. It's obviously Mayor Mamdani. Who the fuck else would be doing it? Not any liberals, of course. It's Mamdani figuring this kind of stuff out. You want to win elections? Here's the roadmap. This is the route that you can take to winning elections if you want it. It's out there. And by the way, I'm not making up this data. It's out there. Enough of you said wage theft when I said, what's the largest type of theft? Plenty of us already knew it. Go start a union. See, Justin, I see him saying here, with that said, I have concerns about universal health care while understanding our current system is awful with wait lists. Go look up the actual wait lists, right? Like, I'd argue that that is propaganda blown out of proportion. And more specifically, I would argue that more Americans just forego. They don't get on a waiting list. They just never go to the doctor. Because they're like, you know what? I know I'm not going to afford it. I'll be real. It's been a while since I've been to a doctor, and now I don't have health insurance. So not going anytime soon. Don't worry, though. I feel great. I'll get there soon enough. Don't anybody send me concerned messages. I'll get back on health insurance soon enough. Northwoods Progressive says, yep, I've skipped the doctor. Exactly. So you're not on a waiting list. It's not like people are saying Northwoods Progressive has been waiting for a knee replacement for 9 months. No, they're just walking around with their knee hurting. By the way, they don't have a knee problem. I'm using a metaphorical example here. But like, that's what it is. And like, meanwhile, I would argue, let's just see, like out of curiosity, this is just going to be an AI search. So this doesn't count as the end all be all, but are there long wait lists for healthcare in Canada. Canada. There we go. Canada. Life-threatening emergency care is fast, but non-urgent services face medical delays. So in other words, you can be in America where you just don't go to the doctor, or you live in Canada where you have to schedule your basic routine checkups in advance. Anyone who's ever gone to the dentist, you go and get your teeth cleaned. What happens after you get your teeth cleaned? They schedule you for 6 months out in advance. You don't call that a waiting list. You call that just the routine. The same thing here. You go see your PCP. He says, way to go, Ben. You actually grew since the last time I've seen you. I hope that's the case at least. This is the ideal situation for me. Can't wait to see you in 6 months. Talk to the receptionist up front. She'll get you on the books. Wonderful. Talk to you then. And then we move on. And if I get hit by a car somewhere between those 6 months, I immediately get health care. And most importantly, I don't lose my house because I immediately got health care. As Moondog says, and I don't have to worry about bankruptcy over the bills. Exactly. Save great minds. And Violet brings up a great point. Waiting lists for specialists are long in America as well. It's a very good point. It's okay to focus on weight loss to prevent knee pain. You know what, Violet? For you, I'm not going to take the bait. I'm just going to move on. I'm going to say that person's stupid and a bit of a bootlicker, and I'm going to move on. Wait list for mental health care is a serious problem right now, says Carrie. I believe it. I don't have the numbers, but I believe it. But yes, preventative maintenance, we could be healthier as Americans for sure. But don't tell me every other country has figured out being healthy. If anything, obesity rates are catching up to Americans. It'd be better if we trended in the opposite direction. But if anything, we're just getting fatter in developed countries way faster than we ever did. You know what's crazy about that? And this is probably rude, but I'm going to tell the story. I've told you this before. If you lived in Pittsburgh, Ocean City, Maryland was Pittsburgh's beach. It was this rinky-dink little place. I loved it. I would take my kids there. It's fantastic. But like compared to like actually, like if you want to go to a place where you can like see through the water and the water is a comfortable temperature, you don't go to Ocean City, Maryland. You go to Ocean City to like ride the waves, and it's cost effective. And but it's awesome. I love it there. When we were there in the 90s, my dad used to mock it because he, much like a lot of the boomers in the audience, remember a skinnier America, right? I'm saying something nice about boomers right now. The way you guys ate, the way you took care of yourselves, right? Like it was just different then. And my dad would always comment. He'd be like, man, there are just so many heavy people in Ocean City. And I like, as an adult, I just want to be like, yeah, because everybody there is from Pittsburgh and we're a fat freaking city. And that was in the early and mid 90s. You know what I mean? Like, I can only imagine what it's like in 2026 because this has only become a worse problem. I am not willing to gloss over the personal accountability part of this conversation, but with that personal accountability comes a government that actually has to regulate things, which MAGA has no interest in doing, and just have cheaper, healthier food options. All the cheapest stuff is the stuff that'll kill you faster. But on top of all of that, I'm not going to pretend like these health concerns aren't of concern in other nations as well that are paying 2 to 5 times less per capita than us and living longer than us. Like eventually, when every other industrialized nation has adopted a system, maybe it's time we consider that system. Like, I'm saying... Why am I a divorced dad now? That's my joke. I could see a wait list for more elective, less dire when socialized healthcare first starts, but after people adapt to just going to the doctor when they need to, it's just fine. I believe that. I certainly can't get into my doctor for routine checkups without at least 3 months in advance plan to do so. I believe that. And when I needed to see a specialist, it took 6 months to get into their office because I was a new patient. My husband had this issue as well. Mental health is also, yeah. Helen says Medicaid and Medicare are government-funded health care for seniors, disabled, and the poor. Why the big issue for universal health care? I agree. It's not a matter of cost savings, Igloo. It's a matter of we're being fleeced. It's a matter of negotiating the cost. And you're right, you don't speak to doctors anymore. Is every industrialized nation with universal health care radical? Yes. Yes. They could be terrorists, actually, now that I think about it. It's like I start that healthcare video off. I don't know if that makes me want to laugh or cry more. Rantony out in Jersey says it took me 3 months to see a specialist. I will say, Rantony, coming from Pittsburgh, where my apartment building that I own was located, that I owner occupied, so I lived there for 8 years, like my mid to late 20s and early 30s. I could walk to 3 hospitals. When our steel mills closed, University of Pittsburgh is one of the top 5 medical schools in the nation. So there's like a lot of hospitals there. And I will say to the people of the Fox Valley, it's better in other places in America. I will say that. Doing the dental, like I'm in the middle of getting permanent implants for my teeth. That took way longer to set up than it needed to. As you guys are saying, specialists in general take way longer, and that is not the norm. I shouldn't say it's not the norm. Maybe it is. Maybe living in Pittsburgh was fortunate, and I'm oblivious to how the Fox Valley is actually more of a regression towards the mean than where I was living prior. But it is worse here. Noticeably. And as Rantony says there on the TikTok chat, 3 months for a specialist versus 6 months for a specialist sounds about accurate. Let's see here. Oh, wow. 22 comments. Okay, let's see what we're dealing with here. Wang. I hear all this. I resigned as a county chair here after getting swatted down by Evers' endorsement of Crowley. I feel that, Bernie. It's less about where the money is going than where it no longer is coming from. Tax cuts. How about where are they actually doing with them? I agree. Have you ever read anything by Thomas Frank? He pulled the sheets off of all this years ago. I'll have to check it out with a book called Listen, Liberal. I like the title of that book quite a bit. Kim says, but here in the Valley, if you are waiting to see a new specialist like a nephrologist, it's 6 months, maybe even more. To see a primary doctor, it's 1 to 2 months. Deanne says Trump is the king of wage theft. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. He is one of the biggest offenders. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I'm willing to bet it actually probably gets way worse, if I have to guess. But again, I'm not coming at you for this, D, but like that's like in liberal fashion. Like when Biden was in office, and they were like, can you believe Donald Trump lied about the value of his properties in order to increase the loan that he could get? Yes, I absolutely believe that. Go look at every other billionaire and tell me if they're doing that now, because I'm willing to bet if you put the same amount of resources into every other billionaire, you'll find the exact same level of guilt. And of course, nobody wants to hear that because Donald Trump is uniquely worse. And it's the same thing with wage theft. He's terrible, but I'm willing to bet it's going to be like restaurants, like agriculture businesses. Like I guarantee you the industries that are robbing people the most are the worst. Kim says this boomer is tired of the same old Christ on a bike. Let's get this shit done. I feel you. Kim says, honestly, they need to really take the DNC, burn it down, and start over. I feel like there are very few politicians that really are working for true American people like you and me. Keep them. Keep those that aren't working for super PACs. They take money from our allies in the Middle East. Keep them, rebuild the party, and kick some ass. I agree. And much like in the aftermath, like people don't realize in the aftermath of FDR, the Democrats basically enjoyed like a 40-year majority in a lot of the houses. Like it only shifted to Republicans in the early 90s, right in time for me to be born. And as you've noticed, the middle class has been slowly constricting since that point. I'm sure that's by accident. I would hate to accuse people of something. Trees are cool says part of the reason we don't have universal health care is because it removes the major incentive of poor people to join the military. I'd argue it's the same thing with the cost of college as well. I think that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to be honest. I mean, maybe what's going on in Iran is going to be another one of those moments, but I can tell you a ton of millennials saw the war on terror and they were like, nope. No, not interested in this at all. This isn't my interpretation of what the armed forces is. I'll go do something else. But then you go out there and see what the cost of everything is, unless, of course, you join the armed forces and then you get a ton of socialism again. And it's wild. It's wild. Housing, healthcare, food, clothing, all socialized by the military. Exactly. Growing up, rarely did you get referred to a specialist. System feeds on seeing as many doctors as possible. For sure, but we also know more, right? Like, I think there was more of a rub dirt on it and keep moving on kind of thing. And I think it's better to be to be more health conscious and informed, right? Like, I'll be real. I have two parents that have been in and out of hospitals for most of my life. And like, I don't know, maybe and I have several doctors in my family. So I just think it's better to be informed about this kind of stuff. Trust me, the fact that I haven't seen a PCP in a while that's not like a brag. That's not me being dude. It's me being like, I'm not paying for this bullshit. So we'll just figure it out when we figure it out. But that's at least my interpretation on the matter. But so billionaire Mark Cuban, who makes billions of dollars off of his healthcare company, thinks we shouldn't switch anything about our healthcare industry. I'm sure that's a happy coincidence. New York Times Politics has an article out there now that says Medicare would abolish private insurance. There's no precedent in American history. And the top comment on the article is, oh no, not my beloved private insurance, which increases 10 to 20% every year, costs more than my mortgage did, and doesn't cover anything until I've paid the first $13,000. You know what I mean? Like, they get you defending this shit because there's certain elements of MAGA still that are wired like Manchurian candidates. The second you hear socialized healthcare, universal healthcare, ending privatized insurance, what? The free market, the free market. Like, as if the free market isn't the exact reason why we're in this boat. Look how much profit United Healthcare has made just in the last 4 years relative to their existence prior to that. Other than that 1 month in the aftermath of Luigi, of course. And tell me that that's not as a result of it being privatized. That's with all the competition allegedly keeping the prices down. It looks more like the competition said, oh, wait, we can decline how many people and still make that much? Like, that's in all likelihood the way it goes. Have you guys ever seen that meme where it's like myth? The free market creates competition, and it's two billionaires selling lemonade, and the first billionaire says, I use half water in mine so that my product goes further, and then the other billionaire says, I just use my pee. And like, it's the two of them talking about how they're trying to find a way to make the most profit without making the product better or competing. They're competing to the bottom, right? And that's what our healthcare industry has been doing for basically our entire, specifically post a certain president that tends to rub people the wrong way when you bring it up. I'd love to talk, Eljo, to your guest tomorrow. Message me in Facebook. If you guys haven't seen, a guy dressed like Spider-Man and punched Jake Lang in the face, who's now been arrested 4 times over the course of the last 12 months because he's a bit of a tool, mostly. And then, of course, plays victim, because if there's one thing I can tell you, Republicans love to instigate you, and then the repercussions of that instigation happen, and then they play victim, which is really fun. Really fun. Like, let's say hypothetically, if somebody sends me 15 emails a day antagonizing me, calling me a loser, talking shit on my family and my career, and then so one time I just let him have it, and then he goes and sends that email to anybody he can find that wants to listen, maybe you're the problem, you little baby. That could be the case. What do I know, though? The cops protect him. I don't know a lot about the story. What I do know is Spider-Man's a hero. That's what I do know. And I also know that Tim Roush offers the best plumbing solutions for anybody who's looking for it. That's a good point, Moondog. I'm not looking at the bright side enough. We do have concepts of a healthcare plan. So it's not that we have nothing. Tim needs a new hat. Yeah, no, I actually like it more that the hat's red. I think we need that in society today, personally. Or maybe I'm just a dweeb. Who knows? But yeah, Jake Lang, I believe, was it also in Minnesota where he went and busted up, like it said, like pride in ICE or something, or maybe it said fuck ICE in ICE. I don't remember what it said, but like there was an ICE protest going on and he went up and defaced it. Like there's just certain things that like you could probably just mind your own business. What was I coming over here? Oh yeah, right. Cool. All right. But so in any event, it said fuck ICE at the Capitol in January. Thank you. Yeah, I knew it was something. Okay. It said fuck ICE and ICE. Yeah. You got a felony charge for destroying it. Exactly. You can just walk on past it. I see dumb protests all the time. You know what I do? I keep right on walking. You know? It's going to be a long week, guys. I'll tell you what. By the way, actually, while we're doing healthcare, this wasn't even part of the plan here, but I may as well show you guys this one as well. These are the kind of things that I come across that I'm just like, oh, well, when you look at it like this, how can anyone realistically even be defending this anymore? But here's a chart for the healthcare costs that we all have to look forward to. And again, you can even see the slight decreases year over year there, but realistically not enough. Even compared to this back in 2014 and 2015 to start off the chart, there's this huge jump under Trump, of course, right after he did trickle-down economics, which, you know, of course that's when it happened. And then you come over here and it's like, oh, under Trump again. That sounds really fun. This sounds really fun up here now. And it's only going to get worse because, again, we are like 70 days away from a midterm election, and realistically, much like I said during the 24 election, healthcare is barely even a concern. There are people willing to shit talk the abject failing of the Republican Party on healthcare, and yeah, fucking yeah, but it's not a solution. It's just highlighting that the other team's worse. And like, I don't know how many more examples we need of this kind of stuff before we realize this isn't what the people want anymore. I haven't heard anything about a debate, John. I will be emceeing a debate on September 23rd for the candidates of the 56th Assembly District, though. More information on that later, of course. But, like, you would think this would be more of a focal point. And what's interesting is that NBC News article, or excuse me, CBS News article that I was talking about with you guys from January, where Hakeem Jeffries wasn't whipping up the Democrats to vote against funding for ICE because he said he didn't want to have to bat away conversations about Democrats being soft on crime. He wanted to continue focusing on the economy for the entirety of an election year, highlighting the shortcomings and the ways in which that he can make things better. And I would argue healthcare is part of that. And instead, we're talking about Donald Trump's ballroom and this Natalie woman. And he wants to put his name on all these buildings. And you're not sticking to the issues that you claimed that you cared about. And then more importantly, in order to put yourself in a position to talk that way, you forewent other legislation that your constituents, that your voting base would have wanted to see you enact, i.e. cutting funds to ICE. So you don't get the ICE defunding because we got to make sure we're not soft on crime and we want to talk about the economy and healthcare the whole time, and then proceed to present and then go on TV and say, I'm actually not in favor of Medicare for all, and then have no actual plan other than highlighting that Donald Trump and MAGA is objectively worse at it, which they are. But Democrats aren't good at it. And they're like, vote for us. We're less bad at this. And you think that's the future? Let me see. Do people really know what they want? Probably not. You know, Tony, I genuinely think that there's a large contingency of people out there that genuinely do just hate minorities, whether it be racial or sexual orientation or gender or whatever. But they know that that's not popular. They know that they're an asshole for thinking that way. So you can't come out and say, yeah, I voted for Trump just because of the 9 transgender athletes, and if everything else gets worse, I don't care. Because that's objectively stupid. That's objectively wrong. And the majority of people are against you on that. Not necessarily on trans athletes in sports, but on caring enough about it to completely implode the economy at the behest of that. And they know they can't say it. I think there are people out there that enjoy the cruelty towards the undocumented and documented immigrant population that's out there, because they think nothing like that can ever happen to them. But they know that that is not popular. You can't go to the water cooler at work on Monday and say, oh, did you see those fucking Mexicans get pepper sprayed? I don't know if I've laughed that hard all year. You can't say those things, even if you think it. And so what I think we have here is a contingency of people, and I'm not willing to say that's the entire Republican Party, but it's enough of them that I'm just like, what do you see happening in the right direction here? Because the fact of the matter is, inflation went high because of COVID, and it was slowly coming down. It was actually coming down faster than it was for any European nation between 2022 and 2024. We were paying more because of corporate greed, and for printing money to a certain extent. And Republicans, rightfully so, bitched about the economy. And I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. All of the positive trends have been reversed. We no longer are trending in the right direction on any of those things. And the same people that did not stop bitching for 4 years now are cheering for it, even though it's going in the wrong direction. The same people that didn't shut the fuck up about Hunter Biden for 4 years don't have a thing to say about corruption in the Trump administration. And so my long-winded answer about whether or not people know what they want or not, I think they do know what they want. I just think there is an element of people that are not particularly bright that know what they want is not popular. And so they have to find ways to frame it. Let me present it to you in an incredibly trivial way. There is a TV show out on HBO called The Last of Us. It's based on a video game. The original one came out in 2013. The sequel came out in 2018. It's a story about a man who loses his daughter at the very beginning of they're not zombies, but it's basically a zombie apocalypse. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty. His daughter dies in front of him at the very get-go, start of the game. It completely reinvented storytelling in gaming, actually. And he ends up coming across a young girl whose blood is a cure for the disease. And the first game is critically acclaimed. Everybody loved it. Everybody loved the characters. Everyone was so excited for the second one when it came out. The second one is a true monumental feat in gaming. The graphics, the story, everything about it was awesome. And it got completely review bombed in the like on any site that you go and look at it by gamers, not critics, by gamers. And the reason why it got review bombed is because the main character, Joel, and spoiler warning for the beginning of the second season, this is how the game starts, gets beaten to death right at the beginning by a person who is heavily implied to be transgender. They never come out and say the words, but they beat Joel to death with a golf club, the least manly of all the sports. They beat him to death with the golf club, and then you, halfway through the game, play as the character who killed the character that everybody loved so much. I thought it was an incredible way to tell a story, and I thought it was a phenomenal game overall. If you go and look at the reviews for that game, that is so very clearly review bombed, because that game is almost 9 years old, and very few games better than it have come out since then. If you look at the reviews for it, people will give you any reason other than a transgender person was the main character for why they hated it. I didn't like it because this backpack was the wrong color. I didn't like it because I thought the story was repetitive. I didn't like it for these things. When in reality, if those are your reasons, then you must hate every game that ever came out. They go out of their way to make up reasons why they're giving it a negative review that sound more reasonable. That the average person can be like, oh, nothing worse than repetitive gameplay. Maybe I should stay away from this. The gameplay is not repetitive, though. It is no more or less. It's actually less, I would argue, than most other things that have come out. The reason why you're talking about it that way is because of the identity politics of it all. And it's the same idea in actual politics. I'm voting against the Democrats because the fucking fill in the blank, because the economy, Bidenomics just isn't working for me. I'm voting against the Democrats because Hunter Biden's corrupt. I'm voting against the Democrats because open borders. When in reality, it's the same dumb shit you always vote for, but you're trying to convince us that it's more principled than that. Because if it weren't, Donald Trump should be polling at less than 10%, because there isn't a single goddamn thing that you complained about under Joe Biden that has trended in the right direction under Donald Trump. And the idea that you'd be willing to pretend that they are going in the right direction says to me that it wasn't about any of the stuff you claimed that it was. It's about the stuff that you know isn't popular. And it's hard for you to reconcile with that. Appleton plan, really quick sidetrack here. Hal's saying Appleton Plan Committee meeting Wednesday at 3:30. AI data center moratorium on the agenda. Thank you for the heads up, pal. What we have over here. Studies have shown people pay to inflict pain on others for implied slights. I feel that. Oh, eggs. Yeah, good point, Robin. That's another good one. Oh, trees are cool saying she helped get the moratorium going. There we go. Good shit. When was that again? That was Wednesday at the city council building. It's good info. It's good work, everybody. Good work, everybody. One city at a time. One city at a time. We're going to take that shit down. Not a whole lot of Wisconsin news today. I apologize for the people that tune in for the hyper local stuff. Sometimes the show just kind of plays out this way. I am working on getting some sources for this conversation about Moms of Liberty in a local school board near us that have essentially overstayed their welcome that I think a lot of you guys would be interested in. But I need to get a little more info before I jump into that. I'm always a little more hesitant to jump into the hyper local stuff, more half cocked than the national stuff, at least at this juncture of my career. If I get 100 more followers on Facebook, I pass up a certain little radio station's follower count. That's going to be a nice feeling. Oh, it's going to happen today. I've gone super viral. Guys, over 1.1 million people have looked at my food regulations post. I didn't even know there were that many people in existence. Hey, Ben, news from upstate New York. Public hearing on flock partial or permanent moratorium in Mamak. What the fuck is that? Mamak-Timing? More like Moms of Lunacy. I'll go follow you right now. Thanks, Jennings. And also subscribe to my YouTube page. I haven't said that one time today. But I appreciate you very much. I need to start. I was told last week that I need to do more calls to action in terms of subscribing to my shit. I'm pretty sure there's a way to automate it on YouTube and Facebook so that it just like pops up and it says subscribe to my shit. I'll have to actually log on to Boomer's site to follow. Here's the deal, man. I got to diversify my options. And I didn't see it either. I'll be real with you. I ranked it YouTube, TikTok, and then Facebook and Instagram. And then over the weekend, Facebook and Instagram jumped over TikTok because I blew the fuck up overnight. And like, I don't even know how. And then like Violet's like, I'm so proud of you for taking social media more seriously. I'm like, bruh, I'm doing the exact same thing I've always been doing. I don't know what I did differently, but like something happened. And now like every time I look, like just since I said I need 100 more followers, now I only need 86. Like that's how quickly people are following the account. It's been crazy. I've gained like 400 just talking to you. Marionette also has Flock on the agenda for September 1. Go team, go. My content is more interesting. Are you saying it was not interesting, or are you just saying it was less interesting before? Please do, Northwoods. I appreciate that. It's the same as anything else. Let's see. I believe we're only 85 followers away from being able to monetize YouTube as well. Nope, now 83. 83 followers away from being able to monetize YouTube. We're going to get there, peeps. I should probably make another one of those Facebook posts that's like, go follow. All right. Well, I think we've done all the damage that we're going to do here today. Now 84. Ba-boom. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you very much. If I ever become employed again, I do need plumbing work. Did you lose the gig? Sorry to hear that. It probably wasn't worth it. If I remember correctly, I don't think they appreciated you anyway. So fuck that place. You'll do better. You'll do better soon enough. Believe you me, I got unceremoniously fired and I thought my world was ending. And now it turns out that it was the best thing that could have happened. Sorry, I read TJ's post there. They said, Appleton, please ask your alderperson why their draft moratorium is twice as big as the one that passed in Winnebago County. That's the kind of info we need, TJ. I appreciate you for being here. That is a very good question. Because realistically, even 10,000, like those are those mega centers. I realize they do the most damage, but that isn't even necessarily the end all be all to this conversation. Yeah, I'm gonna have to poke around with it as well, Justin. I don't want to jump to conclusions. I will say TJ is a phenomenal source. Everyone should follow them on Facebook as well. They're wonderful. They help keep me informed very much on the matter. So there's a shameless plug right there. I'll promote that on SOL. Schedule the stream on YouTube. We can get you a headshot of Emily for the thumbnail. It'll be great. I will work. Yeah, I can work on that for sure. Got to build something at the Thriving campus. No, I feel that. All right. Well, follow all my shit is the point of this. Go follow me, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, specifically YouTube and Facebook. Nothing personal TikTok, but you've been a bit of a bastard lately. So, although I am popping off there as well, I feel like there's been a changing of the guard the last 7 days. That I'm absolutely here for. I need to remember to schedule the thing for tomorrow. I will try and put that together. Get me the headshot. I will send it to my thumbnail person, and we'll go from there. But all right. You all have a lovely rest of your afternoon. I will be doing Ben After Dark today, probably. That'll be at 7 p.m. tonight. Got to work on my article for the Minocqua Brewing Times as soon as I get off the air here, and then we'll go from there. Oh, and if you are a paid subscriber for Minocqua Brewing Times, I have upped my office hours with Ben Cominos is now available I go live at 8 a.m. instead of 1 p.m. I do it before Outside the Box now, so it's a little bit of a warm-up for me. You get the ideas first. That's at 8 a.m. till 8:30 on Tuesday mornings now. I will be doing that tomorrow. So have a lovely rest of your day here. I got to get to work. You guys think I'm done? No, I'm just starting. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for listening.